upon the form of the Lord, Manomayam, carved in the mind of the yogi. But however, Manomayam does not mean an imagination. Prabhupada is referring to a fairly well-known understanding in our country. It was even more prevalent in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Maybe it is a little lesser now, but at least it's one of the prominent ideas. That one yatomat tatopat. That is paraphrased in that way. Whatever one wants to imagine, that is okay. That is all right. In other words, it gives a kind of a understanding that a person is at liberty to imagine anything about spiritual truths. And whatever one imagines, as long as one believes in it, that is okay. So it's more or less like an imagination. But Srila Prabhupada is pointing out something very significant. Please do not think that spiritual truth or spiritual realization is someone's imagination. It is just that it is someone's imagination, but it lacks objective reality. So it is simply anyone's imagination. Anything one imagines, as long as you imagine and you believe that, that's okay. This kind of an idea. But actually that is not what the Shastras describe. There is a very clear and distinct description of what the spiritual reality is, what the spiritual truth is, and it is not some just imagination. If we are told that spiritual reality is just an imagination, it's not inspiring to pursue that. It is just some figment of imagination of somebody, and anyone can imagine anything and it has no objective reality at all. There is no objectivity at all in this. That would be very uninspiring. In the 1980s, there was one story published in one of the Back to Godhead magazines. I remember reading that. One Indian gentleman walked into some temple in America and argued with a devotee on this principle that whatever you believe, whatever you think and imagine and believe, that's okay, but you must have belief in that. So then it is okay. So the devotee argued, who was talking to him and argued. He said, you mean to say, if I believe 2 + 2 = 5, it's okay? He said, yes, it's okay. If you believe that, that is the truth. It's okay. 2 + 2 = 5. And so the devotee told him, can you please do one thing? You please bring a bag full of $2 bills, and I will bring $2 bills, bags of $2 bills, and you bring bags of $5 bills. I'll keep two $2 bills, and you keep one $5 bill. Both are same, right? You take the $2 bills, I'll take the $5 bills. And we will do this about 1,000,000 times, and I'll have $1 million for nothing. So these kind of arguments people come up with, it is simply imagination and you have to believe it. That's not the kind of a spiritual truth, spiritual reality that is being presented in the Vedic literatures by the Acharyas. There is a very definitive understanding and how to realize that. So here, Prabhupada is quoting this explanation that there is a form of the Lord described in the Vedic literatures, which is described by the Acharyas, like Vedavyasa, who is the compiler of all these Vedic literatures. He has described, and the Vedic literatures allow, because the Lord's form is transcendental, and right now as sadhakas, we are on a material plane, we see with our material eyes, and so the Lord's form can be carved using certain material elements according to the description given in the Vedic literatures, and those forms can be made out of wood, stone, metal, colors, and also in the mind. And if one makes a form of the Lord using these material elements, and the Lord is invited in a Prana Pratishtha ceremony, the Lord agrees to manifest his transcendental presence even in the material elements. And from then on, that deity is no more a material form, but it is the transcendental presence of the Lord. This is the understanding given in the Vedic literatures. And just like you can make a form of the Lord with stone or wood, here Prabhupada has exactly used that expression. Manomayam is a carving of the form of the Lord within the mind. This is included as one of the 8 carvings of the form of the Lord. So this is an objective understanding. It is not some kind of a imagination left to anyone. And to explain this, Krishna also uses an expression in the Bhagavad Gita, how this understanding of the Lord comes about. In the 9th chapter, when Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Susukum Kartum Avyayam. Pratyaksha Avagamam. Avagamam means to understand. Pratyaksha means by a direct experience. It is not something that we can imagine, but when we follow this process, at a certain stage, that reality, that spiritual reality is Pratyaksha Avagamam. It is revealed in the heart of a devotee as a clear truth and understanding. Avagamam, Pratyaksha Avagamam. And Prabhupada explains this expression used by Krishna in great detail in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita. Pratyaksha Avagamam, directly experienced and understood. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it enables one to perceive the self, it enables one to perceive the super self by direct experience, and hence this is considered to be the highest spiritual understanding. In the purport, it is said that by the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of time, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. So this is the experience that Srila Prabhupada is offering, Krishna is presenting. And Prabhupada quotes in the next paragraph of this purport is Vedanta Sutra. Prakashascha karmanya abhyasat. The Vedanta Sutra says, there will be a prakasha, a revelation. Chakarmanya abhyasat. If one practices abhyasat, these devotional activities. Karmanya abhyasat cha prakashaha. Prakashascha karmanya abhyasat. And Prabhupada gives a very nice translation of this sutra. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. Prakashascha karmanya abhyasat. So, there is a certain practice, abhyasat. There is a certain set of activities which are recommended in the Vedic literatures, and it has to be performed in a certain way. And when that is performed and practiced, prakashascha karmanya abhyasat. This is the way that is described, that it is not that one can imagine in any way one wants. That is not at all supported in any of the Vedic literatures. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada explains in this purport of the ninth chapter verse Rajavidya Pratyaksha, he gives the example of Narada Muni, which is described in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni describes his own personal story and personal experience, that how he was the son of a maid servant, and he had the opportunity of serving the great devotees whom his mother was serving. And he describes that Uchishta Lepan, he got an opportunity of Anumoditaha, with their permission, Uchishta Lepan, he ate the remnants of those devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also points out that to take the remnants of a pure devotee, remnants of the food left by a pure devotee, that's one of the very, very powerful, potent, spiritually potent manifestations of the devotee's mercy. So he says, I honor that. And because of that, Narada Muni says, two things happened. One is, apastha kilbishaha. He says, all my contaminations were eliminated. So that was the first experience he says he had. This is the pratyaksha avagamam. This was the experience that he went through. Apastha kilbishaha. Gradually the contaminations were eliminated. Evam pravruthasya vishuddha chetasaha tad dharma evatmaruchi prachayate. He says, as I was serving those transcendentalists, vishuddha chetasaha pravruthasya, I was engaged in serving them. Tad dharma evatmaruchi prachayate. And those transcendentalists and the activities they were involved in, that very nature became attractive to me. Atmaruchihi prajayate. That attraction for transcendentalists, attraction for transcendental activities was awakened in my heart. So these are the two important experiences that Narada Muni mentions. And this is a fact, the same thing that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. Gradually, when we practice Krishna consciousness, our contaminations will be removed and our attraction for transcendental activities should increase. This is actually the test. Prabhupada often said that no one need to tell us whether we are advancing in Krishna consciousness. This is self-evident. That's the meaning of the word prakashaha. Prakashaha means it becomes self-evident. Just like there are so many things in this room, but in the night, midnight, if you come and the lights are not there, you cannot see anything. But in the morning when the sun rises, automatically everything becomes prakashaha, becomes revealed. In the same way, the transcendental truth is revealed if one gets an opportunity to serve a pure devotee, and from in the association of such pure devotees and serving them, this truth becomes evident. So this is the way that spiritual truth is experienced. Pratyaksha avagamam. This is the way that spiritual truth is experienced and understood. Prakashastat karmanya abhyasat. This pratyaksha, prakashaha, these are the words that are used in the Vedic literatures, and that comes about as a result of the process of following the spiritual practices given by pure devotees. So actually, if we see these things in the Vedic literatures and in our country, there are so many sadhus, it's actually very, very rare to come to the right understanding. Recently, I met one man, and he was sort of not arguing, was explaining that I've heard that bhakti is very difficult and yoga and pranayama are more easy. I don't know where he got these ideas. And so these kind of things, people have all kinds of ideas. And then I told him, yes, those just doing physical exercises, that's relatively easy. To practice devotional service, it requires a lot of sincerity, and that's not so easy for people to develop. So all kinds of misconceptions people have that what is bhakti, what is the spiritual truth, and to come to the right conclusion, it is so rare. It requires the mercy of Krishna. It requires the mercy of a pure devotee. Otherwise, there are myriad conclusions, even in Hinduism. And if you take all of the different philosophies in the world, there are millions of conclusions, and all generated by human thought. This is the whole point. Whereas the truth that we are discussing is not a product of human mental thought or an intellectual thought, but this is something that is revealed by the acharyas, revealed in the Vedic literatures. Because we use our brain to think. Our brain itself is a product of creation. And so the brain, which is a product of creation, will not be able to understand what is the truth which is beyond creation. And hence, the process of mental speculation is flawed fundamentally. And so we do not use our mental and intellectual processes to understand these things, but we take the knowledge from the Vedic literatures as it is and practice it. And when we practice, that knowledge is revealed. And to come to this conclusion, one has to be very fortunate. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Brahmanda Brahmite kono bhagyavanji Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata beej. Bhagyavanji, one has to be very fortunate. Once Srila Prabhupada was in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and the manor had a big, it's a big estate, and there was nice green lawn. There are many pictures of Prabhupada sitting in the green lawn. There were many devotees, and Prabhupada would be chanting, and sometimes in a very relaxed manner, and some devotees would sit there and ask questions. You might have seen that video. There's also a small boy moving around, and Prabhupada touches his head then. So one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, if let's say there are two people, both are equally unqualified. One becomes a devotee, and the other doesn't become a devotee. why does that happen? That was the intent. And this devotee was trying to paraphrase that. There are two people and one, both unqualified. One becomes, immediately Prabhupada interjected and he said, don't try to make a formula of causeless mercy. It is causeless. Ultimately, it depends on the mercy giver. So causeless mercy, there is no formula. There is no method by which one can get that mercy. One has to be bestowed with that mercy. There are millions of human beings and all of them have different ideas, and some of them by virtue of their karma they become powerful, well known. And if we are moving around in this world, where is the opportunity for us to come in touch with a pure devotee and hear from him the actual message of Krishna? Because pure devotees simply repeat the message of Krishna. And that's what we see Srila Prabhupada doing. To come in touch with such a person and hear from him and practice that with great determination, and in that way become enlightened, not think that it is some kind of an imagination. To come to that kind of a conclusion, it is Kono Bhagyavan Ji. It is simply causeless mercy of the Lord and causeless mercy of pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada. So we should recognize this, and that how, like Kapila is describing here to his mother, without some kind of an imagination, exactly as it is described in the Vedic literatures, the beautiful form of the Lord, that is the way of meditation, and that is included in the process of bhakti and understanding this transcendental realization. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.